Another day, another NBA draft rumor regarding the Oklahoma City Thunder. Just how aggressive are the Thunder being in trying to move up from 12 to get in the range of drafting Shaden Sharp or Jaden Ivey? How real is this latest ESPN report? And is Lu Dort on the block? Plus, another NBA draft profile, this time giving you all you need to know about Ochai Agbaji, the Kansas forward that can do a little bit of everything. Coming up on today's Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I am your host, media member and editor-in-chief over at thunderousintentions.com, Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. On today's show, we have another 2022 NBA draft profile giving you all you need to know about a possible Thunder prospect. Today's prospect is Ochai Agbaji. Plus, OKC is being very aggressive with their pursuit of trading up from the 12th overall pick. We're a week away from the draft. What this all means, all coming at you. So on today's show, we're going to talk about trading up from 12. We're going to talk about Ochai Agbaji. We're going to talk about Lu Dort's contract situation, just Lu Dort in general. But I do want to tell you, thank you for making Locked On Thunder your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you, talking Thunder basketball. Let's start, though, with the latest from ESPN. They put out an intel-based mock draft today where Jonathan Givony says that he still has Chet going 2 and still has Jabari Smith Jr. going 1. He says that the Thunder have officially worked it out. Chet Holmgren, Paolo Banchero, Shaden Sharp, Jaden Ivey, and of course Chet and Jabari Smith Jr. So we know that the big names have worked out with OKC. I updated the workout tracker yesterday on this podcast. You can go back and listen to all the names that they've worked out. But we know for sure that all the big names have been worked out in OKC. There was pictures of Jabari Smith Jr. at the airport. There's pictures of Paolo Banchero at a restaurant. I think that there was pictures of Chet, but I'm not sure on that one. And then, of course, we heard about the Ivy smoke and the Sharp smoke for a long time. Sharp posted on TikTok that he was in OKC. So we kind of figured that was going to happen as well. He still has Paolo Banchero going 3. Where things get interesting in this ESPN Intel-based mock draft thing is Jonathan Givony at 4 said the Kings aren't Ivy's preferred destination, but does clarify that there's been other players who didn't want to go to Sacramento, like even Davion Mitchell, who the Kings still drafted. But does say that the owner really wants Keegan Murray at 4. Another thing that Givony mentions at 4 is that many teams around the NBA feel like the pick is available to swap picks with Detroit, Indiana, or Oklahoma City to get veteran help and, of course, that pick. So those players listed are Miles Turner, Jeremy Grant, and Lu Dort. Couple this info at 4, then you scroll down to pick 12, and you hear that he's saying that the Thunder have been aggressive in trade-ups from 12 to land either Jaden Ivey or Shaden Sharp. And it makes a lot of sense. Now, let's talk about why Lu Dort's name is in here. Let's talk about what the true trade range is going to be and how we feel about trading up. Let's start with why Lu Dort, because I think that this is what's going to cause a lot of, pushback from Thunder fans and outrage from Thunder fans. No one is trying to get rid of Lu Dort. I've said this spiel before, but nobody's trying to get rid of Lu Dort. Nobody wants to give him away. But you have to give to get. If you want the 4th overall pick, which is valuable, then you have to give up something that's valuable. And of the players on this roster, you don't want to give up SGA. You don't want to give up Josh Giddey. The next most valuable player would be Lu Dort. And yes, you can throw Trey Mann in there as well. I think he holds value, but not the value it takes to go from 12 to 4. I don't even think that Lu Dort holds the value to go from 12 to 4. That's a quantum leap. But of the players who can get you from 12 to 4, it's really SGA and Josh Giddey, and then you're just being kind enough to throw Lu Dort in that mix because you don't want to throw Giddey or Shea on the block right now. So that's why Lu Dort's name's in here. It's actually a huge compliment to Lu Dort. And again, I'm not sure he's even worth the Kings taking 12 for 4. Because I think that with Lu Dort, of course, you're getting one of the best defenders in the NBA. I think it's an awkward fit with Fox and Mitchell and Dort. But still, if the Kings wanted to do that, it'd still take 12, it'd take Lu Dort, take a future first, and throw Mitchell in there if you want to. Who really cares? It would take those things happening, right? So that's why Lu Dort's in these conversations, because you're not going to put SGA up there. You're not going to put Josh Giddey up there. I wanted to clear the air on that because people are freaking out, and it's nothing to freak out about. What's the true trade-up range, though? For me, it's not 12. I'd be very stunned if the Thunder traded up to 12. I'm sorry. To me, the true trade-up range is not 4. I'd be very stunned if they trade up to 4. I think that is outlandish. Yes, the Kings have made bad moves in the past. Every team has made a bad move in the past. That does not mean you get to just fleece them and offer them Mitchell and 12 and go to 4. You can't. It's very, very hard to climb up from 12 all the way to 4. Even if you include Lu Dort, it'd take a lot of future first-round picks, 2, 3 at the minimum. So I don't really think that they're going to trade up to 4. But I could see them trading up, 7 through 10 and finding a partner in that 7 through 10 range. So if you believe that Shaedon Sharpe's stock is falling, he should be there at 7, 8, 9, 10. And that's a much easier leap that probably will not have to include Lu Dort to go from 12 to 7, 12 to 8. You especially don't have to include Lu Dort if you're going to go from 12 to 10. Because at that point, that kind of trade is more so back to, okay, you get your guy at 12, we get our guy at 10, and then we sweeten the deal for you for moving back, for your troubles. So that's where the range for me falls. Somewhere between 7 to 10. I don't think you can get to 4. I think that you fall into the same area you fell into last year. Last year, the idea was, well, they just have so many first-round picks. Of course they can go trade for everything too. In the draft, you can't do that. In the draft, you have to be able to deliver the other team's guy. Like last year, they tried to offer 50,000 first-round picks for Cade, I'm sure. But at 6, they couldn't get the guy that they wanted. Same thing with pick 2, pick 3, and so on and so forth. Could the Pacers give Turner and their pick to move up? Probably more realistically than the Thunder. Not because of anything that the Thunder have done wrong. It's just that the pick you're giving can't really ensure that they get Keegan Murray or they get whoever their top guys are. So that's kind of why I don't see 4 as a realistic option. Now, if they somehow pulled it off where they have Chet Holmgren / Jabari Smith Jr., whoever they pick at 2, plus Jaden Ivey, I'd be thrilled. If they somehow pulled it off where they have one of those 2 guys plus Shaedon Sharpe, I'd be thrilled. Because any of those combinations, you get 2 of my top 5 players in this draft. And that's worth doing to me. But I still don't think it's realistic to expect them to go up to 4. How do I feel about trading up in general? To me, these targets are accurate. You trade up to go get Jaden Ivey, if you can do it, while keeping 2. You trade up to go get Shaedon Sharpe. But past that, I'm still in the camp of I view all of these prospects past that top 5 as interchangeable, as a razor-thin edge. And I think that players are going to fall. I think that you're going to see somebody at 12 you did not expect to see at 12, whether that's an H.A. Griffin, whether that's a Johnny Davis, whether that's a Jalen Duren, whether that's whoever, right? Someone has to be there at 12. So to me, it's not worth giving up the additional assets unless you're going to take a swing on a guy who could be a superstar. And to me, the superstar list ends at Sharpe, right? It goes Jabari, Chet, Paolo grouping, plus Ivey, plus Sharpe could be superstars if they hit their number 1 overall, if they hit their 1% ceiling, which not a lot of guys do. A lot of guys hit their 1% ceiling. But if they did, those guys could be superstars. Past that grouping, I don't really see them being a superstar. I see them all kind of being the same relative players to where I just sit out and wait and sit on your assets. But I think that the targets are right. If somehow Sharpe falls to 7, 8, 9, 10, you trade up. If somehow Ivey's fell in, he won't fall. But if somehow he did, sure. And if you can get to 4, go ahead and do it. But that's kind of where we're at in the draft news. Now, the draft scuttlebutt is going to start to come flying out after the finals is over. Unless it's something just massive, you tend to keep these rumors the best you can under wraps because you want the finals to be on the center stage if you're the NBA. It's sort of an unwritten rule unless you just have something monumental. So I think that we're going to start to hear the crumbs more falling out as the finals goes away, right? Whether it ends tomorrow or whether it ends on Sunday. So expect the finals to wrap up and then the news to heat up for the NBA draft. Also, these NBA draft prospects are going to be talking with us in the media starting tomorrow and all the way through tomorrow, Friday, Monday, and Tuesday. So we'll hear more from them themselves and get more info on who they've been working out with and what they've been doing during this offseason. So a lot's coming up. Make sure you follow along on Locked On Thunder, wherever you get your podcast from, including on YouTube. Make sure you follow along on Twitter at Ryland_Styles. And I just want to reiterate one thing before we get out of here for our segment on Ochai Agbaji. The Lu Dort contract situation. Lu Dort could be traded. If the Thunder find a package they like for him, they're going to trade him. However, if he's not traded at the draft, then the Thunder are going to likely decline his option, make him a restricted free agent, and then re-sign him to a long-term deal. Do not get that contract extension talk of the last week with Lu Dort being confused for untouchable or for sure not being traded. This is based off of a Reddit post, which, again, no harm. I know that it's hard to keep up with all this information, and I know it's hard to keep up with a show that goes 5 days a week, but it was posted on there that Locked On Thunder said that Lu Dort's not getting traded, he's going to get an extension. No, Lu Dort can get traded. And if there's a package out there for Lu Dort that's worth it, they're going to trade him. However, if he does not get traded to draft, then this is how the contract extension should look based on what Keith Smith of Spotrac is reporting. So that's what the contract situation is for Lu Dort. He can be traded and could be, of course, dealt. As far as another contract flaw, a lot of people are saying based on these packages, well, you've got to think too, no one's considering that Lu Dort's only making $1.9 million, and who can you go get for only $1.9 million that is going to provide the value Lu Dort does on the court? Here's the flaw with that logic. It's not logical at all, because in order for Lu Dort to only make $1.9 million next year, he gets to be an unrestricted free agent in the offseason. So if you're Sacramento, let's say hypothetically you're Sacramento, and you just traded away the 4th overall pick, who, if he's a superstar, will be in the new destination, call it OKC, for 9 years. You have 9 years of control of Jaden Ivey. And to make Lu Dort play for $1.9 million, he gets to be an unrestricted free agent the next offseason and can go anywhere he wants to. Is he going to pick Sacramento? No. So you just get 9 years of Jaden Ivey for future draft capital and 1 year of Lu Dort. Doesn't make a ton of sense. So if you were to do that trade, which again, I do not think that the Kings will do, but if you were to do that trade, you would assuredly, again, use the team option that now you're in possession of, decline it, work out the long-term option, work out the long-term arrangement and long-term contract with him as an RFA this offseason. So he won't be playing for $1.9 million next year if you trade him. And he won't be playing for $1.9 million, I don't think, this year for the Thunder either. I think that they're going to decline his option and work out a long-term extension with him this offseason. So the contract number right now is a bit tricky. And again, $1.9 million is cheap and very valuable, but it's not real whenever you think about it logically and say it all out loud with that kind of MO. Because again, the value to the team of $1.9 million is the value of Lu Dort being an unrestricted free agent for himself next offseason and going anywhere he wants to go to. And every contender would line up to get Lu Dort. And he would have to pick Sacramento, right? So that's kind of the flaw in looking at it that way. But coming up, let's talk about Ochai Agbaji and what his player profile looks like and kind of how he fits with the Thunder and where he's projected to go in the NBA draft. But first, I want to say right now, pretty good friends over at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is incredible, right? It is daily fantasy made easy. You pick 2 to 5 players, and you take the over-under on their projections. So you can win to 10 times on any entry. It's just you versus the projected numbers. It's easy. You can make them in 60 seconds or less, those picks. It's so fast, so quick, so safe, and offers fast withdrawals. You can use their award-winning app on both the App Store and the Google Play Store. PrizePicks offers any prop you can think of, from points scored, rebounds, steals, and anything else, including mixed sport entry. So tomorrow, for Game 6 of the Finals, you can take the over on Stephen Curry points and the under on Whit Merrifield hits. You can change sports. They have NBA, college basketball, college football, NFL, MLB, soccer, MMA, and everything else. So check them out today. PrizePicks has an exclusive no-brainer offer for our listeners. PrizePicks will give you $50 for free when you use the code NBA. if a single player scores a single point in your first entry. So go right now, use the code NBA for $50 for free at your first PrizePick entry right now if your player scores a single point. So again, code NBA, PrizePicks, $50 for free at prizepicks.com. We are back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Folks, the ultimate mock draft is coming, and it starts June 16th with over 50 insiders. Nothing equals the ultimate mock draft. The Locked On NBA Big Board Draft experts, plus out-of-seat experts like former players and former executives, all in one place, grading every single pick, and we're acting as the GMs for our teams. First pick is June 16th. So search Ultimate Mock Draft right now so you do not miss a selection. And tomorrow, June 16th, is our pick. Pick number 2. Who did I select? Who'd the Magic go with at pick number 1? And everything else regarding our mock draft will unfold starting tomorrow. So make sure you check it out. Now let's get back into the show. This is Locked On Thunder. Let's go with Ochai Agbaji's player profile and projection. Ochai Agbaji is 6'4", 217. He's 22 years old. To me, the one sentence overview of him is that he has no bust potential and can be a 3-and-D guy. Probably the safest pick in the draft to me is Ochai Agbaji. Here's his strengths. He shot 41% from 3, 76% at the line, 19 points per game and assists per game. He took a massive leap as a shooter this past season and became a lot more consistent. I think that the shooting is a double-edged sword, right? Because it happened last year, and he was very good last year, but you don't have that consistency. You don't have that consistency. You don't have that kind of pedigree, right? Of doing it for many years as a senior. So he only did his senior season. However, it does show growth. And last season, he was asked to do more offensively. He was asked to play more on ball. And while I think that playing more on ball, right, was a good thing for him and helped him grow and helped him develop as a ball handler, as a passer, I don't view that as his NBA role. I just view that as it helping him in secondary skill sets. So for me, yes, he had great moments as an on-ball player, and he was no longer playing with, the guards like Devon Dotson he was playing with before. He was no longer playing with guys who could help him ease that burden. Frank Mason, Devontae Graham, they had a huge run of guards, Devon Dotson, who could really grow and help things, right? It's great that he got that experience, but really that experience just helped him tighten his handles and become more of a passable passer, not necessarily helped him grow as that's his role in the NBA. I do not view that as his role at all in the NBA. What I do envision his role in the NBA being is a 3-and-D guy who is an amazing cutter and an elite lob threat on the wing. We think of lob threats oftentimes as big men. He is an elite lob threat as a wing player, as a perimeter player. And I just had these visions when I'm thinking about Ochai Agbaji, when I'm watching him play, of him cutting backdoor, Josh Giddey driving in, pulling up for a floater, defense on their heels, and he turns that floater midair into a lob to Ochai Agbaji, who slams it down, and we all just get super excited. And you see that play on Twitter for the next day and a half. That's kind of his role. I think he can attack the rim and finish within trees and through contact, but I would not rely on that in the NBA. That's another thing he showed in college. That's very good he showed in college, but it's a break glass in case of emergency skill set in the NBA. It's not what he's going to be asked to do consistently at this level, I don't think. I think that he can be a fantastic defender. I love his defense. I think he's a very smart player. I think he has a strong work ethic. I think he understands that in the NBA, his role will have to be dependent more on being a defender. I think he can switch 1 through 4 with his long, lengthy arms, big body, and his lateral quickness. He can absorb contact on both ends of the floor and be able to pressure bigger players and play bigger than he is on the defensive end. So I love his defense. And I think that, again, seeing his offensive role decline, right, where he's not being asked to have a high usage, not being asked to carry the load offensively, seeing that decline, we'll see his defense rise. And it levels out to a very, very good player in the NBA. He had some stamina issues last year. Now we're getting into his weaknesses. Some stamina issues last year, but I think that was due to the burden of offense he had to carry. So I'm not really concerned with that. Again, I think that changes in the NBA. I don't really think he can be a first or second option as a playmaker, as a ball handler. So for the Thunder, that's no problem, right? You have your first two options as a playmaker and ball handler. You have Shea, you have Giddey. Other teams, that might be a problem, right? But I don't think that he will be able to be a top tier option as a guy you want with the ball in their hands. Another weakness can be, again, do you trust the three-point shot? He's only done it for 1 year at a high clip. And from my vantage point, right, I'm a Kansas fan. I watched his whole career unfold. There were a lot of times before last season, so it's junior year, sophomore year, freshman year, where you're watching these games, especially the big games, and he kind of just disappears into the background. And you're wondering, where's Ochai Agbaji? And you're wondering before a big game, are the Jayhawks going to get that Ochai Agbaji game, or is he going to just not show up? So his consistent impact was a big deal to me up until last year. Last year was a very good year. They went and won a national title, of course, and everything was great. My last weakness on Ochai Agbaji is something that I don't think that we'll ever know until his career is over with. I don't think that this is going to be defined by anything that we see on film. Maybe teams can psychoanalyze him and tell right now, but we don't have that information. My last weakness on him is for Ochai Agbaji. Will he embrace that 3-and-D role for the rest of his career from start to finish? He was just the man on a title team, the number one guy on a title team on both ends of the floor. He was just the man carrying the offense that won the Jayhawks a national title for the legendary Bill Self-coach, for the legendary program. He was the guy. Will he be comfortable? Will he embrace taking a much reduced role immediately? Or is he going to have to see himself fail first in that role before he adjusts to his new NBA lifestyle? Which one will it be? I think that everything I've ever heard about Agbaji is that he's a very hard worker, very intelligent basketball player, very kind of self-aware player, to where I think that he'll have no problem doing this. But I think that is a fair weakness whenever you factor everything in. So coming up, let's talk about where Ochai Agbaji is listed at in terms of these mock drafts and big boards. Let's also dive into how he fits specifically with the Thunder. Let's give him an NBA comp, a floor, and a ceiling, and everything else. But first, I want to say right now about our good friends over at BetOnline. BetOnline, folks, is your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, news, and odds, including this year's NBA Finals and Stanley Cup, Major League Baseball, and of course, MMA, UFC action, and boxing even. Having you covered there at BetOnline. And my favorite part about BetOnline is that how easy it is to just get into the sportbook. You type in BetOnline at your URL, you go to their sportsbook, and from their sportsbook, you can then go to basketball. And we see Warriors 3.5-point dogs on the road tomorrow to try to clinch a championship. Let's take Warriors plus 3.5 in that game, and we'll see how we do. But it's that easy to go to BetOnline. So go there right now to bet on sports. We are back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you for making Locked On Thunder your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you talking Thunder basketball. For your next listen, go check out the Locked On NBA Big Board Show, where host Rafael Barlow of NBA Draft Junkies has you covered with so much great NBA draft news every single day. And now, let's continue talking Ochai Agbaji. Where is he available? The Ringer has him at 17. ESPN has him at 14. The Athletic has him at 13. Bleacher Report at 17. CBS goes 8, 10, and 14. They have 3 panelists. NBC goes 18. DraftNet at 10. Tankathon at 16. My big board, I have him at 13. And then Mavs Draft, Richard Stayman, has him at 11. So Ochai Agbaji's availability is anywhere from 17 to 11 on these big boards and mock drafts. His ceiling and floor to me, his ceiling is a solid starter that truly ties a 5-man group together as that switchable defender who can space the floor. His floor to me is a spot starter who starts kind of in a matchup-based scheme and is primarily off the bench as a defensive stopper. The NBA comp I like for Ochai Agbaji, if he can hit his ceiling, is Dorian Finney-Smith. I think that if in an ideal world, whenever you turn that card in to Adam Silver of who you want to draft, if you wrote down Ochai Agbaji, you're hoping that ticket turns into Dorian Finney-Smith. And so I think that is kind of his NBA comp for his ceiling. What's his role for the Thunder? Future role to me, you're hoping your top 12 pick could be a starter. Immediate role, I don't really know if he'd start out of the gates. To me, I don't think he would. I think he'd be a bench guy out of the gate. I think that you'd start SGA, Lu Dort, Josh Giddey, Darius Baisley, and then the second overall pick, Chet Holmgren, Jabari Smith Jr., whoever is at number 2. Roster impact, it comes down to, again, too many mouths to feed. If you're going to invest your 12th overall pick in Ochai Agbaji, the minutes and workload decline for guys like Ty Jerome and Theo Maledon. So those guys really don't have much of a role anymore within your organization. Why the Thunder should take Ochai Agbaji is that they buy into his three-point shot and they don't see the value in trading up. Why the Thunder shouldn't take Ochai Agbaji, though, is a much greater argument. Because to me, as much as I like Ochai Agbaji, diehard Kansas fan, if they don't buy into the shot, that's a non-starter. If you think that last year was just a fluke from beyond the arc, you flush this idea immediately. However, my big knock on him is that I think that there's way more value and way more upside with the 12th overall pick. I think you almost, if you want Ochai Agbaji, I think you almost need to trade down to go get Ochai Agbaji. For me personally, anyway. That's kind of the way I see it. Again, I've been a big proponent of staying at 12 and a big proponent of there will be people who fall to 12 that you don't expect. And to me, the value of whoever lands at 12 will be significantly higher than the value of Ochai Agbaji. I think that Cleveland should race to the podium and draft Agbaji. I think you can fit right into a team like that who is a play-in type playoff team who's trying to, push the buttons to improve their game. So for me, I like him as a spot at Cleveland, for example, but not for OKC. So that's where my head's at with Ochai Agbaji. Where are you at with the draft scuttlebutt, with trading Lu Dort to get to 4? Really, to me, that's the only time it'd be worth it to trade Lu Dort is if you can get to 4 and get AJ and Ivey while getting Chet Holmgren and Jabari Smith Jr. or either one of those two guys. That'd be awesome, right? If you can keep 2 and get 4, that's kind of what you're looking for when you're trading Lu Dort. Other than that, I would keep Lu Dort around for as long as you possibly can. So I like Lu Dort a ton. I think that ultimately I would still bet on the Thunder picking at 2 and 12, but again, the trade-up range for me is 7 through 10 in terms of trading up for the Thunder, and we'll see what happens. It's going to be a wild week. It's going to be full of draft scuttlebutt and news and notes, so make sure you stay tuned to Locked On Thunder wherever you get your podcasts from. Also, check me out on Twitter at Ryland_Styles for the latest news and notes regarding these NBA draft prospect interviews. We're going to have a ton over the next few days. So tomorrow on Thursday will be Keegan Murray, Jabari Smith, Ousmane Dieng, and Benedict Mathurin. Friday will be Shaedon Sharpe and Ochai Agbaji. Monday will be Jaden Ivey, Johnny Davis, H.A. Griffin, Jalen Duren, Mark Williams, and Chet Holmgren. And then Tuesday will be Dyson Daniels. So make sure you stay tuned to hear all about what they have to say regarding their pre-draft process and more coming up on Locked On Thunder. Until then, be good and be good to one another.